there, welcome to the PaleyFest Fall TV Previews. I'm Jim Halterman, West Coast Bureau Chief of TV Guide Magazine, and I'm excited to be your host for this special conversation celebrating CBS's Fire Country. And thanks to City, the festival's official card and official sponsor, for their help making this program possible. Today we're thrilled to have members of the series' gifted firefighting cast. Joining us, Max Thieriot, who plays Bodie and is also an executive producer of the series. Hey, Max.
How's it going?
Hey, good. Kevin Alejandro, who plays Manny. Hey, Kevin.
Hello.
And we have Diane Farr, who plays Sharon.
Hi.
Hey, Diane. And Stephanie Arcila, who plays Gabriella. Welcome, Stephanie. Well, thanks everybody for watching this panel. Let's dive right in. Max, obviously the first question is going to go to you. You had a big hand in shaping this series and kind of bringing it to our screens. Can you talk about the origins of the show and your part in it?
Yeah. So it was kind of just, honestly, it was an idea that I had about 2.5 years ago. It was something that, I guess it kind of was always like a part of me, and it seemed very normal and regular. And then when I started telling people about, CAL FIRE as a department and, more specifically the inmate firefighter program, people were kind of like, what do you mean? But this is a real thing. And that's when I realized that, wow, I guess where I grew up and this job that I kind of really know and know a lot of people that do this job is actually not normal. It's pretty interesting. And so I just writing away, and I sent my first doc to the WGA in April of 2020. And I know this is exceptionally fast by normal standards. And here we are already shooting a TV show, and I couldn't be more excited, man. It's been crazy. And it's every once in a while, I sort of sit there on set and I kind of have to pinch myself, because I'm like, wait a second, this is really happening. We're really doing this right now. And I'm just, I don't know, I'm so excited. I honestly, I couldn't be more thankful for the team that we have across the board, the crew, but especially this amazing cast that's there and pouring their hearts into this show. And it's not every day you work with that many talented and just sweet, genuine people, especially when you have 7 of you. Usually there's going to be one that everybody's kind of like, oh, that guy, here he is, and we don't have one of those. And so it's such a blessing. And honestly, going to work every day is just, it's amazing.
Max, I wanted to ask, since you had handed in shaping the show, there are other firefighter shows on the air. What was it about Fire Country that you wanted to do so it would stand apart from those?
Well, I think that, visually, obviously, CAL FIRE does a lot of rural firefighting. And so this is much more sort of a Yellowstone-y looking country firefighting show, right? And then I think, CAL FIRE is also, they're an all-risk department, but clearly the big kind of spin on it is it's, rural blue-collar firefighters working alongside, inmates, fighting fire shoulder to shoulder. And yeah. And that's kind of the big thing, right?
Diane, let's talk about your character first of all. I remember you from Rescue Me, which was another firefighter show, but you were kind of firefighter adjacent in that show. You weren't really in the mix. This one, you definitely seem a little more involved. Can you talk about your character and her part in this world?
Yes, it was so fun. When I first got it, I thought, oh my goodness, it's almost as if that character on Rescue Me grew up and now became the big boss and sort of the matriarch of a firehouse, if she would have been so lucky as to have gotten that far. But I have to tell you, every single thing I go to our tech guy with and say, oh, can I have one of these? He's like, no, we don't do that. The difference between indoor firefighting in a city and the outdoor firefighting that we're doing is a world of difference. We spend all of our time in the trees. It's sort of what's actually happening with global warming. And it's super interesting watching the temperature climb every day and realize how sort of pertinent this information is. I don't know why I've been blessed to play a firefighter so many times, but it's an awesome role to try and emulate.
Well, and you're also working with your spouse on the show. I mean, the character's working with her spouse. Can you talk about how that relationship is impacted? Because I'm guessing, anytime two people who are close work together, sometimes there can be some conflict there.
Yes, I have the blessing of being pretend married to Billy Burke, which I have to tell you, my children are more excited about than anyone I've ever met. They were watching his trilogy of movies the other night, and they stood up in the living room every time Billy Burke came on stage. He's a wonderful actor to play with. I think we come at it totally different, so it's super exciting. And there's always the question of who got where because of skill or gender or time on. So there's lots of little layers going on in there. And, firefighters in general, if you start as a probie, your status is so particular and clear, and you're working your way up in rank. The whole time rank has so much to do with your level as a firefighter. And I think he and I almost become parental for everybody in the house, how it plays out. I'm super excited to see how we keep bumping into each other. So far, Max and all of our writers have done an amazing job of keeping the human part of it. When we have a problem, there's a fire, everyone is running out of the building or the forest, and we are the people running in. So the tension between the characters has to be super unique. There are people that live right on the edge of running to the adrenaline rush. So
yeah.
See.
And Kevin, your character is one of those that's running into the fire, and he has a leadership role as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about your character?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as Max said, just sort of piggyback up what he said earlier, that there is this real life department that takes prisoners who qualify for this program to take time off of their sentences. And I happen to be the captain of that department. And it's very important to that character that he takes these gentlemen and shows them that there is a way to reform. There is redemption at the end of the tunnel. You'll find out throughout, because it's a small town, because we kind of highlight the relationships and the human interaction between what goes on and how it affects everyone in the town. You'll realize that we all have our own issues. We all have our own secrets. We all have our own, kryptonite, so to speak. And, so not only is he sort of the mentor to these people, but he has his own issues that he's got to power through so that he can be that sort of representation of redemption. It's a very powerful piece. And Max, thanks, bro. This has been an extraordinary experience thus far. And yeah, he's in there. He's not just your typical captain who's shouting orders. He's also on that front line. He's also part of that group of people, to say, if I can do it, you can do it. Let's do it together.
Yeah. Would you say he's the kind of boss that's kind and gentle, or is it more tough love, or somewhere in between?
I think it's somewhere in between, I think because of his work ethic and the way he represents himself, I think it could seem and prove itself to be inspiring to the others that they want to do it too. But at the end of the day, he's a father, and he deals with those issues, with Gabriella is his daughter's name. And I think with anyone in life who is a father, who is a husband, who is a leader, so to speak, the weight is sort of on his or her shoulders. And Manny actually, I think, does a pretty good job of holding that weight and delegating what has to happen. Okay.
And Stephanie play Gabriella, the daughter. How would you describe the relationship between Gabriella and her father?
I think that he's raised an extremely independent, strong woman. And I think that sometimes that bites him in the butt. Because in a sense, we are mirrors, right? And she's just, man, I love her so much. Sometimes I'm like, I wish I was that brave, for certain situations. I wish I would just, it's really beautiful to watch her be rebellious in the most beautiful and healthy ways as well,
And I don't want to give away too much, but she has kind of built a world for herself outside of the firefighting world. She has other ambitions and things. Can you talk about that a little bit, at least at the start of the series?
I mean, Gabriella is an Olympic diver. That's what she's used to. It's such a lot of people don't realize it's such a solitary sport. You know, you're on the diving board by yourself, you're training nonstop, you're away from family, you're away from all these experiences that, you know, normal teenagers would normally live, or people, you know, Gabriella's age as well. And she's lived this like kind of, she's had a job her whole life, basically, you know, training. So it's something where I think she's coming to terms and is yearning for a deeper connection, you know, just in life in general, with community, with her family.
Okay. Max, I didn't mean to skim over Bodhi, because I want to know a little bit more about him and where we meet him at the start of the series, because we're talking about this inmate program and firefighting. He's part of both of those worlds. Can you talk about who this character is?
Yeah, so Bodhi is obviously we meet him really on his first day showing up at fire camp. So making that transition from, you know, prison out to one of these fire camps, and it happens to be you know, which we see in the pilot, the town that he's from. And so, you know, we're going to find out, obviously, as we sort of unpack all that in the show, why he doesn't want to be there. But just sort of like the irony of the fact that he ended up in this place. You know, they've closed a few, but there were 43 con camps. So, you know, out of the 43 con camps he could have ended up at, obviously it was narrowed down, because if you commit a crime in Southern California, you get sent to an inmate fire camp in Northern California. And so obviously by crazy circumstances, that is his situation. He committed a crime in SoCal and sent him back north. And so, you know, kind of just this show, like I'm such a sucker for card turns, and I love that stuff. And so, you know, it's like when we were going through writing the story, like I had a bunch, and then the more we talked about it in the studio and everybody kind of got behind it, they're like, that. I'm like, yes, we can do more. I'm like, this is awesome. And so, you know, in the pilot alone, you know, there's a few things that we unveil in that episode, and then, but you're really on a journey with all these characters. And I think what's awesome is, you know, is how intertwining they all are because of this small town, and how sort of messed up small towns can be in that way, that every little thing affects everybody. And it's how I grew up. And so I think that's, for me, why I sort of wanted to tell that story, just because I think it's also relatable to a lot of people in the world. But, you know, especially as soon as you leave one of the coasts and you hit the, you know, middle of America, like a lot of people can relate to what it's like growing up in a small town.
Yeah. And one thing I really enjoyed about the show, and I think we've seen this in the news, and that is how in these areas, especially Northern California, where fires do happen often, the whole community comes together. And we see a lot of that in the show. Does anybody want to talk to that and why that's important in this show, that we see that?
I think in the beginning on the pilot, one of the first things that was said to us was the only aspirational part of the show is the relationships between the characters, that as actors, we were going to wear the same clothes over and over again, that we were not here to be like fashionistas. The first photo shoot we all did, the first note we all got on the team was, please don't paint your nails. Please don't come in with your hair done. Like it's sort of really a process of like, how do people live in real life, which is wonderful to see that the drama is based out of how they feel about each other and how the interactions are moving.
Yeah, you know, I personally come from a very small town in West Texas, and I think one of the things that's going to make this show really pop and affect people is that particularly the ones that come from small towns are really going to relate to it, because when you come from a place like that, everything does matter, and everyone does know something, and everything does affect you in some way. And there's such a pride. Like, you know, my hometown is Snyder, Texas, right? And I am Snyder proud. And every person who comes out of Snyder is Snyder proud. You know, I'm a Snyder Tiger forever. And that's sort of what this has. It's like, you know, you may have this about you. You may have this secret. You may have this, but you know what? You're my brother. You're my sister. You're my cousin. And I'm going to love you no matter what. And I think, you know, we're going to fight and we're going to claw our way out of this hole, but we're going to do it together. And I think that's what really is going to relate to a lot of people who come from family.
And one thing I really enjoyed about the pilot as well, which I'm guessing will be a regular part, is actually seeing everybody in the fire. Like you're actually seeing everybody in these environments. I'm guessing there was a little training that went on before you guys started shooting. Can you talk about what that training was? And what did you learn from it? Max, start with you, because even though you know this world, I'm guessing you had to learn some things as well.
Yeah, I definitely had to learn some things. Like a lot of it, weirdly, like I knew just from like almost every single one of my buddies growing up, even like in high school, like at an early age, started working at the volunteer department. So even, during school, they'd be volunteer firefighters. And so I was like, always, it's weird because I always like knew all of it, but I'd never done it personally. Like I knew like a lot of the terms, and I knew like, sort of like a lot of the tactics, but I just had never done them. And so,
though, Max shows up on set and is a superhero. He's like, I got this.
No, it's honestly like, yeah, we did some training, most of the training, right? Because reality is cutting and, and the amount of fire that we're actually fighting on camera, all of those things, like, because we are filming, doing the actual job isn't as important as showing that everybody looks like they know what they're doing, right? So it's that level of authenticity of when you use the equipment and the way that you move with it that makes it look real. And it was kind of the same thing for like the last show that I did. It's showing people doing the job the right way is the most important thing from a technical aspect. And so that's really kind of what we focused on learning, is how to hold all the tools the right way when you're using them. How would you hold this hose? How would you have two people holding this hose? Like kind of just all those like intricate little details of the job, right? And how you do it.
Okay. Stephanie, did anything jump out at you when you were in your training that you were like, wow, this is how it's done? Or wow, I just did that? Anything?
Yeah, I think like for everybody, obviously I trained a little just because I was raised by Manny, and she would go like in the summers and her dad would like teach her how to do all these things, So I think it's just like the amount of endurance and strength that these people have to have, and that we have to have as well, like within each character doing whatever they do, whether it's my diving, whether it's helping out my dad cut line, the amount of, it's going to be a very physical job, which I absolutely love because we're all getting strong together. And just the honesty, to piggyback on what Kevin was saying, the honesty that this show has, and the fact that, everybody comes together as a community, and the fact that we as individuals already with each other love each other so much. It's just going to be so beautiful when it translates on camera.
How much weight does everything weigh? Like when you actually have the coats and the hats and all the gear, Diane, were you surprised how maybe it actually weighs a lot?
It sucks. Okay, first of all, when I was on Rescue Me, the turnout gear for the building was 65 pounds. So it was like more than my body weight. And I saw a chiropractor for 5 years after that show. So then we get here, the day we got the pickup, I called Steph. I was like, we have to go to the gym. We have to go like every day. Have you seen the size of Max's shoulders? Wait till this show is on. His shoulders are the size of my head. There's no way he and I can do the same job. And I don't want to disrespect actual female firefighters. I went to the gym at 6 today before this PaleyFest. It's hard. And you know what else? It's hot. It's so hot when you're filming with turnout gear on. God bless firefighters. I like hair and makeup. I like the free stuff that comes with being an actor. This job is so much harder than that.
Can I also say that Diane has also taken the actual exam and passed, by the way. She's
nice.
A freaking badass.
I love you. Diane is now 52 years old. I took that test at 35. I've had 3 children since then. I don't know if I'd still pass.
Kevin and Max, how was it all for you? Because you're both in great shape, but it's still, that's a lot to carry around with you. It
is a lot, but you know what? I mean, you adapt. and it becomes part of for me anyways, it becomes part of my armor, becomes part of it's my skin outside of my skin. And I think Max can attest to this. When I'm in that stuff, I don't like to take it off, because those guys don't take it off. They don't have that rest in between, while they're setting up lights to go fight the next bit of fire. So it's very important to me to train myself to learn to have that and have that stamina, and be in it. Don't take off my suit. Keep my whatever it is whatever tool I'm using in my hands, whatever strapped my back, keep it on. And at that point, it just becomes part of who you are.
Totally. No, Kevin does for sure. We were filming the other day out in the heat. He's just standing there like baking in the sun. Like, do you want to take that off for a second or have some water, dude, or whatever? And he's like, no, I'm good. He's just standing right there. But I also agree with him, though. I think, the thing about it is, it's like, does it suck a little bit? Yeah. But you also know that like the real thing sucks a lot more. And you also know that when you're doing the job, like I want some of the suck. I want to feel that, because it only adds to, I think, the environment. It only adds to the scenes. It only adds to, what you're showing on camera. It just puts you in that setting even more. And so I sort of block out like the physical difficulty of it and just sort of embrace it.
Did you change up your workouts for this, Max? Because I was teasing you when we talked earlier about your tight orange t-shirt in the show. That's, shows that you're pretty built up, but did you change knowing this role would kind of call for that?
I've been working out for SEAL Team for 5 years or whatever it was, but I sort of switched over because at first I was like, man, I'm going to go for like that prison build. And so I tacked on like another like 10, 15 pounds off of SEAL Team. I think I showed up like 205 or something, which pre-SEAL Team, just for like reference, I was like 160. And so I showed up, and then I know in an episode coming up, I'm going to be shirtless. And I was like, all right, I guess I need to probably like not just try and go for like huge traps with no neck and a big wide back. I need to actually think about eating healthy for a little bit, because I was just eating, like, I have a pretty fast metabolism, so I can just eat anything, and do pretty good as long as I'm exercising. That was my mentality coming in, was I was going for prison build.
Okay. What's the percentage of how much you guys are shooting outside and in stages? Because where are you shooting again?
We're shooting in Vancouver,
Okay.
and we shoot 3 days in, 5 days out is our schedule. So
Okay.
a lot of outdoors, which is great. Our production designer is awesome. The team that we have here, seriously, like, amazing. We built this epic firehouse on stage, our local bar that's kind of a staple watering hole of the show. We'll have interior Leone's house. Like, we have a few sets that'll be pretty full time, and then just a lot of stuff outside. And so I think kind of the fun thing with the show too is visually, it's going to change with the seasons, right? Like, it's kind of endless what they do as a department, and so we can show a lot.
And we have a lot of cool trucks too. Max knows what all those trucks are. I wouldn't know, but we have trucks, we have a motorcycle, and I think we have a helicopter. Can I say we have a helicopter?
We have helicopters. We have a lot of cool big toys that Cal Fire gets to use, whether it's planes, the new Firehawks, they call them, the helicopter. We use a Type 3 engine, which we brought up here, which is a Wildland 4x4 engine. So that's definitely a little different looking than what you see on a city department show. And then, eventually we'll see a dozer cruise, which is pretty epic also.
Well, and then the pilot, this isn't a spoiler, but you see a water drop in an area where they're trying to clear. And as a viewer, I was like, as a journalist, I was like, I want to go to set that day and I want to be there when the water drops. What is filming something like that like? Because I'm not sure how much water actually drops on the actors, but it looked really authentic, but also it was something I didn't know. I never thought about the firefighters actually getting doused with water as well. I think about the fire, but anybody want to talk to that?
Who was on set that day? I don't think any of us were.
None of us were, but yeah. So the water drops, you can call it a water drop, right? And they have so many different forms of water drops, whether it's a helo, tanker, like there's a lot of different types of helicopters too that will drop water. We spice it up a little bit with everybody diving on the ground. I mean, in reality, you can see some videos of firefighters getting water drops on them, and it's more like a big giant spray of mist, and you usually don't go diving, but that was our sell for it to really amp it up a little bit. But those helicopters are insane though. So the one that we show in the pilot is a Firehawk. So it's a firefighting version of a Black Hawk helicopter. And basically the big difference in capability is it holds about 3.5 or 3.25 times as much water as the old Huey, which was the helo that they're used forever, right? From the helos from Vietnam. And so it holds a lot more. But the big thing is it can be flown at night. And so most of the Hueys, they have to stop flying at night. And now they can fly these at night, and they fly them under night vision, kind of just like in the military. The only hard thing is getting enough pilots who have experience of flying under night vision.
Okay. I love it. Okay.
And if you come up this weekend, there might be a helicopter happening on Friday or Monday. I don't remember which, but it's one of the two.
Okay. Well, I'm in Southern California, so I can get up there fairly easily.
Correct.
So I'll come see you guys. Quick last question, really. How much does discussion of the environment and climate change and that sort of thing come up in the show? Is it something you guys deal with? Because it's sometimes in the news a lot. I don't know if it's touched on in the show. We do. And I mean, it's not like what the show is about, but it definitely comes up in conversations, and it sort of is dropped in there in different ways, right? Like I know in an episode that we have coming up, we're talking a little about the bark beetles, which are a beetle that basically, with the climate, as stuff dries out, they get in. They're an invasive species, and they will get in and basically kill these trees. And so you end up having like a forest that's 40% filled with, matchsticks out there that, like really healthy, vigorous, like strong, giant old growth trees. You can have a massive fire and maybe they'll torch a little bit, but it's the dead stuff or the dying stuff that is really the most vulnerable and, helps really fuel like a fire as it goes through. And so it's dealing with those. And I think it's also just sort of like, obviously wildfires are more prevalent now than it seems like, in any documented time. And they're not just in California, they're across the whole West and into Europe. And if you look at the mega drought that kind of the entire West has been going through, I mean, you look at Lake Mead and all the bodies they're finding now in that lake because the lake's dropping so low. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. It's just like just the pure insanity of the whole thing is like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine being out there swimming. But yeah, I mean, it's times are changing, right? And so
it gives us the opportunity to sort of highlight these issues without slapping you in the face with it, but letting you know that this is a real thing that's going on. With climate change, with the, more man-made mistakes. So, we're not slapping you in the face, but we're letting you know that this stuff is real,
Okay. Well, I love what I've seen so far. You guys, thank you for joining us for this special PaleyFest Fall TV Previews conversation with the cast of Fire Country, which premieres October 7th on CBS. And thanks once again to Citi for their support. You can enjoy more of these programs by clicking the subscribe button below. Thanks, everybody, and take care.
Thank you.